feel that, driver?
I did. Must be the viaduct.
I know I'm big, but there's no chance that I'm causing the viaduct to creak.
I hope not. Well, that'll be a nuisance for the Fat Controller. Fat Controller stepped out of Henrietta and walked over to the viaduct. He was not impressed.
Good grief, this will take out some financiers, do you reckon?
You could always close the railway for a little bit, sir, said Toby.
No, it's too late into the season for it, replied the Fat Controller. Bother, why now of all times?
I figure it's the amount of trains that go over it every day, sir.
Don't fret, it's natural for a railway. We'll have it fixed, reassured the inspector.
But that was easier said than done. The engines found it difficult. The arches on the viaduct were being strengthened. The cranes had to be positioned on one of the two tracks, and only one engine was able to travel across it on the one line. They had to take great care, which meant that trains were late. Mostly, the engines weren't to blame. If you heard Thomas talk, you would think they were making a grave mistake, as poor James and Henry would find out.
That little blue geezer doesn't understand our current work ethic, does he?
Said James in the sheds that night.
You'd be the one to talk about work ethic.
I agree, James, but I won't say he's in the wrong, said Henry.
Oh, he's not. How could he say that?
Barked Thomas.
Time's time. Those big engines ought to know that. Them and their viaduct. Laziness is more like it.
Thomas, if the big engines were lazy, then the big work wouldn't get done. And then where would we be? Said Toby.
Not listening to them complain first.
Viaduct, viaduct, viaduct. That's all he ever says, like it's degrading, as if Gordon's fat tender hasn't gone over it so many times.
I've told you before, it's big, not fat, thank you.
Well, Gordon can't help it, and neither can you, Henry eased. Thomas rarely passes Ellsbridge anymore because of his branch line, so he doesn't know.
That's the problem, Henry. Oh, and now there's that heat wave over in Yorkshire. So the weather's not under our control either.
And here he comes thinking that he knows more than me, said Thomas. Bother him and his viaduct then, if that's what he calls it. If you ask me...
Do you know what I think?
He should just plant his wheels.
The engines were tired, but it would only add up from there. The holidays meant that the services of goods and passengers only grew. The weather didn't help either. Bright, hot, sunny days wore the engines out. But as soon as one train was delivered, another was to be taken. Thomas was waiting for his line to be clear. Henry and Toby were waiting on other lines, and James was later than ever.
Where is that big red fusspot? Said Thomas. Of all engines, I think he'd know the term guaranteed connection.
Henry said nothing. He felt an argument wasn't worth it in the heat. At last, James arrived. He was as red as his paintwork.
I'm sorry, Thomas. I was held up at the station. The viaduct.
He was out of breath. Thomas wasn't impressed.
It's always the same, isn't it? You big engines and that viaduct. I've told Gordon that if I were you, I'd scrap that tender, because at least then my weight wouldn't be an issue.
Henry broke in.
That doesn't change anything, Thomas. He'd have to take care on the viaduct anyway. If he didn't, it'd collapse. And what will we do with our trains then?
Run them on time, for one thing.
Thomas snarked back. James was hoping to retort, but Thomas was already out of the station. Toby knew he'd have to talk to Thomas later. and Henry was speechless. The railway wasn't the only one being strained. The roads, too, were dealing with the lateness. Due to the delay, Bertie would cross, much to Thomas's weariness.
Late again? I know we're friends, but this is just too slow, even for me, he quipped. We ought to have another race. I have a feeling I can beat you now.
Bertie chuckled as he left the station. Thomas seethed.
It's not my fault.
Since when is it? Said Toby that evening.
At least with you.
Said a tired Percy.
Bertie doesn't get it, continued Thomas. All he has is passengers, no goods to go with him. Why should he have told me that I shouldn't be late? It was James.
Percy rolled his eyes and yawned.
You keep this up, Thomas, and I'll be late for my train in the morning.
Toby took Thomas's comment to thought. James wasn't late on purpose, was he?
You tell me, Toby. Him and that viaduct. All of those big engines and their viaduct. I'm sick of hearing it as much as you are.
It wasn't on purpose, then, remarked Toby. Thomas was about to reply when he thought momentarily.
No.
Then it wasn't his fault either.
What are you getting at, Toby?
But it's not his fault.
Or yours, Thomas, said Toby, who continued. He couldn't stop being held up at the station, nor could you stop being late for Bertie. You were late, but still showed up.
Better late than never,
said Percy as he fell asleep. Don't put the blame on anyone, Thomas, including yourself. It isn't fair to anyone, nor does it do anything when there's more to the predicament. Thomas hadn't thought of it like that, and the thought stuck with him as he fell asleep. The next day, the sun beat down. It was hotter than ever. Bertie was out with his daily service. Bertie's driver was concerned.
I have to commend you for working in this heat, boy. Do you think you'll be alright?
I'll be fine, driver, Bertie said indignantly.
The heat's bad enough. Your systems will be out of order,
said his driver. But Bertie persisted. Meanwhile, Thomas was waiting at the station for his connection. He felt it would be a good time to apologize to Henry. Henry rounded the corner and came to a stop at Elsbridge.
I'm sorry I'm late, Thomas. I know there wasn't a viaduct before, but there was a cow on the line, and I...
That's all right, said Thomas knowingly. It's not your fault, nor was it with the viaduct.
In fact, he was interrupted by James's whistle. He had just taken a train down the line.
Oh dear. Prepare yourself, Henry. With this heat, he's sure to be moody.
Well, I'll hear him out regardless, Henry replied.
Thank you, Henry. But I actually wanted to apologize to you two for the last week.
It's quite hot today, isn't it, Bertie?
Yes, sir, it is.
Where was this on Wednesday?
Come now, James. This is Thomas we're talking to.
Oh yeah, like that changes anything. Just like the viaduct doesn't.
Yes, it does. I realise you two couldn't help it with being late over the viaduct. I shouldn't have been so... hostile with you.
I wouldn't say hostile. I felt quite secure. It was impatience, Thomas. Nothing more than a little irritation from you.
But it's quite all right now, yes? Oh, Bertie, I don't think you can go on.
I'm fine, driver. Are you all right now?
Sure, considering the viaduct should be done in a few days. And now this? Wait, when was this? It was from yesterday. Didn't you hear? Nobody tells me anything, said James as he scurried off.
The two engines laughed as the guard's whistle blew.
Goodbye, Henry. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Goodbye.
Henry called back. Thomas rounded the bend, and there ahead of him, Bertie the bus had overheated. His radiator was steaming. He had broken down and was feeling sorry for himself.
Bertie, you should be at the station by now. You're late, aren't you? I can't make it. I feel so dreadful. Driver says he can't make me better right now.
Oh, it's this blasted heat. Anyone would think that the sun would come closer.
Then Thomas had an idea.
Say, would you like me to take your passengers for you? I'm late as well, and they need to get home. Is that all right?
Asked Bertie sheepishly.
Of course. Nobody would be at fault now, would they?
So Bertie's passengers quickly climbed into Thomas, and he set off. And to his surprise, they made it just in time. That evening, Thomas was coming back to Tidmouth. He saw Bertie being mended over by the station.
Feeling better, Bertie?
Thomas called as he puffed over.
Yes, much better.
Said Bertie with a tired smile.
Thank you, Thomas, for taking my passengers today. Not a problem, Bertie. It was the least I could do.
He replied warmly.
Right. Also, I'm sorry for barking at you for being late, seeing as I was late myself for a stupid reason. That's all right. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't anyone's. Well, maybe Gordon for going over the viaduct.
Oh, come on!
The two friends laughed.
Thank you, Thomas. I'm glad that I could have a friend like you.
Thomas smiled, and he puffed back to his shed, ready for the night.